Welcome, everybody, to the GrandMaster Plan Podcast, your premier podcast for high-level Gwent talk and analysis. Today, we have a very special episode. I am joined by my fellow co-host, ShoePlays. How you doing today, Shoe?
What's up, Joe? How's everyone?
And Truedawn. How's it going, Truedawn?
Hello, I'm doing great.
We also have a very special guest today. This is our first guest since we have moved to the three-host format. We have the winner, champion of the Wild Hunt tournament, the holder of the belt. How are you doing today, Trynet? What's going on, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. Yourself?
Very good, very good. So just to, let everyone get a little acquainted with you first. How'd you find Gwent? How'd you get into it? What's your card game background? Just give us a little bit of background information about yourself.
I'm not actually sure how I found Gwent. I think it was just like on Reddit there were some posts about it, there were people talking about it, so I decided to try it. I've always been big into the idea of digital card games, but I could never tolerate the RNG of Hearthstone. And from the moment I played Gwent, it reminded me a lot of my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh format, which is GOAT format. Because it's all just like one play at a time, players just go back and forth, make decisions.
A man of taste.
Man, exactly. Format's a lot of fun,
Yeah.
and it's very similar to Gwent, and I try to sell that to all the people that play GOAT with me.
Very nice, very nice. I'm sure that a lot of people have some questions for you. Shoe, Truedawn, you guys got any questions? Start off the conversation for our champ today?
Yeah, I mean, let's just throw off a softball. I mean, how you feeling, man? You won the Wild Hunt Gwent. You were the champion. I think that's your belt in the background there on your lamp.
It is.
How are you feeling after your impressive victory?
I'm feeling pretty good. Certainly can't complain. I'm the only one that didn't get sick after the event, it seems, either.
Yeah,
Pretty
apparently.
much.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't get sick too either, but I heard people were hurting pretty bad.
Yeah, it seems that the championship belt is able to fight off the Wild Hunt plague.
What
Maybe I'm just used to
percentage?
the rancid affiliate.
What percentage of people who ended up in the hot tub got sick?
100, I think.
Yeah, I think it's
I
100.
think it was bad 100, yeah.
I think people who weren't in the hot tub but were just like within 100 feet of it all got sick.
So getting into like the actual tournament itself, you did this amazing Reddit write-up that I thought was really, really insightful. And while I didn't 100% agree with all of your conclusions, I love the thought process behind the decisions you made. So I want to ask you, when you were going into this tournament, when you were preparing, were you preparing for like a hard target type of deal, a soft target on a deck, or did you just think certain decks were so much better than others you wanted to bring them? If you want to talk about that, elaborate a little bit.
It was mostly I thought decks were just better than others. Like I thought Axeman and Dagon were very far ahead of the rest of the field. I didn't think the metagame was developed enough to specifically target anything. Like there's always the Necro deck that you can target, but there's no guarantee that everyone's going to bring it. There's Dagon that I thought most people were going to bring, but it's kind of difficult to target that deck. There's Alchemy, but that deck was way more popular than I expected it to be. I thought most people at the event would have realized the Alchemy deck is actually very good, but it seems like everyone that I played against was on Alchemy, so maybe I would have been better off if I targeted that.
Yeah, I think Alchemy was one of the more interesting things at the event. My guess was that people were a little scared of Greatswords because I didn't have the same feelings about Axeman coming in as you, although you damn sure proved that Axeman is legit and here to stay. I thought that Greatswords was going to be the most popular deck, so in my opinion, I think that's maybe why the Alchemy decks were so popular.
Possibly.
Yeah, I know definitely that was part of my strategy. I was running like Greatsword and Hensel, and even like Dagon decks. The Deathwish 2 can be somewhat weak to it if you're like removing a lot of the Deathwish units. So I actually ended up banning a lot of Alchemy, and I know talking to a lot of people, like Alchemy was a pretty popular ban there.
Yeah, I was really happy every time someone banned my Nilfgaard deck.
Isn't that the best when you show up and you're like, this is my worst deck, and if they ban it, awesome, and then they just snap it off?
Yep.
That was great.
Well, you were actually playing Spies, right? So what was your kind of thought process behind bringing that to the tournament? Because that's something that has really not been popular lately.
Yeah, I didn't like the Alchemy deck, just going into the event. So I knew I wanted to play Spies in some form, just because it was the only other Nilfgaard variant that seemed playable. So up until the Friday, I was going to play Amir. But then I saw a list on Gwent TV that Friday that was just playing Calvé, and I decided that on Bluecoin especially, being able to dry pass with Calvé as your leader might incite your opponent also dry pass into round 2, thinking you're just Alchemy. In which case you get to play just a really long round of Spies. And that seemed better than any...
value.
Exactly. And it seemed better than like anything Amir could generate. So I decided to go with Calvé.
That's like a really interesting thought process in that, because it's very similar to the kind of dynamics you have in Magic, where in the mirror match, if you want to go like slightly bigger than your opponent, because they can't get underneath you and you'll overpower them in the long round. And it's a very similar dynamic in that Nilfgaard situation where they think that you're on the same level. It's like, no, my long round is way better than yours. You're going to get wrecked.
Exactly.
So that's like a really cool way to approach that, and you obviously are rewarded for it.
I'm also curious, as one of the few players that did very well in the tournament that didn't bring a Hensel deck, what were your feelings on that? Are you just bad at playing Hensel like I am? Like, I cannot pilot my way through a fucking paper bag with Hensel. Or did you have some, like, strategic reason for not liking it?
So I tried testing around a bunch of Hensel decks, but I couldn't really find one I liked. It's sort of like the same problems like the Icy Scorch decks, and you have a lot of decisions, but your opponent has more of them, and it seems like the decisions your opponent makes are more impactful than the ones you make, and I wanted to be in more control of the game.
That makes sense. And, yeah. And Hensel also, like, Hensel does this thing where you have to play, like, a weird number of cards more than 25, and I can just never bring myself to do that.
It also really sucks on blue coin.
Yeah, it is not a good blue coin deck. And you were the hero of blue coin, right? My god, that finals match.
It's what my lineup was designed to do. Like, it's designed to win on blue coin, so...
It is really important. Like, it's super important to have decks that have some kind of play on blue coin. Like, that's why I'm a huge advocate for playing Bran and Skellige over, like, the Croc decks. Because you have superior carryover with, like, Wolfsbane and stuff. You just have so much player on blue coin. It's, like, just... I can't, like, win a game to save my life with Croc, because what do you do when you hit the blue coin? I have no idea.
You just tempo out a Morkvarg and pass, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
So, like, instead of targeting a particular lineup or particular matchup, it sounds like you targeted a fundamental of the game. You just understood what's going to happen on blue coin, on red coin. Your red coin games are going to be heavy favorite anyway, so you wanted to be as prepared as possible for the worst case situation.
Exactly.
Is that fair?
Yeah. You never want to be the defender in a round, so by playing a good long round deck, you can always force your opponent into playing the defender round 2, because they can't drive bats against you, obviously, or you're just going to destroy them in the long round 3. You just force them in that defender spot and usually go into round 3 uppercard, whether you win or lose the coin flip.
You know, I kind of want to dive a little bit more into this whole red coin, blue coin, and how you look at it, because part of your interesting write-up on Reddit that you did was talking about Gwent as, like, defenders and attackers, and I think that's something really unique. Like, I don't think I've heard anyone kind of talk about Gwent like that before. It's more of, maybe you can draw the parallel, like, reactive and proactive, but what's your kind of overall strategy about the red coin, blue coin? Like, how do you look at it as kind of a way to win games, or as a mechanic?
So fundamentally, I think the only real difference between red coin and blue coin, given like optimal play and optimal strategy from both players, is that the player on red coin gets last play in round 3. Optimally, both players probably just want to pass rounds 2 and 3, so neither of them ever have to play defender, and they're never threatened into going into round 3 a card down. The thing that makes this not work, of course, is stuff like War Dancer, because it denies the drive pass opportunity, of course. But in general, I think most people just want to be drive passing back.
Yeah, that is certainly fair. It's also like the distinction of like attacking and defending and like assuming a different role based upon the situation is like one of them like core things of like understanding how to play Magic. It's one of the first things you learn is who's the beatdown, or should you be trying to be aggressive?
Classic article.
Like,
Still holds relevance to this day.
Because it's just like fundamental engagement in like turn-based games. It's like an important concept to have, and understanding that going to the tournament and building your deck's consideration of that obviously gave you a huge edge. So it's something that I would like encourage people to understand. Like, just because you're on the blue coin doesn't mean you're inherently disadvantaged. It just means you have to play the game differently than you do on the red coin.
I would still say you're inherently disadvantaged.
I agree. I'm arguing semantics. I don't think he's arguing the actual point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, losing last play is an inherent disadvantage, for sure.
But I would say that you can mitigate it if you play differently. Like,
in certain matchups, yes.
There's a world where the cards could be designed differently, that it's not always an inherent disadvantage. We just don't happen to live in that world.
Yeah, like Dagon versus Alchemy, I do not care which coin I get. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'm always going to go into round 3 a card up.
It's living the dream, man. So one of your sort of signature hallmark decks of this tournament was the Axeman deck, right? It looked like you firmly believed that this was not only the best deck, but the best deck by a significant margin. So I just want to hear your thoughts on it. Why do you think it's the best deck? What's going on with it? Why were you so sold on this Alchemy list?
The Axeman deck, I mean.
Axeman, yeah, sorry. Brain fart. So, they both start with A's. I was almost there.
Yeah. So remember a minute back, I said how I always want to be in attack position. When you play Axeman, you're the best long round deck, so no one can ever drive past back to you in round 2. Otherwise, you just go into round 3 on even cards and like 12 card round. Nothing can ever beat you there. So you have a reasonable short round as well. You have Restore for the Pirate Captain, which is basically Cyrenova, 22 points. You can generally force your opponent into 2 equally bad decisions after you drive past round 1. Either they give you a long round 3, or you go up a card in round 2. It's very hard for your opponent to find out which point to pass is in round 2 to get the shortest round 3 they can. And how do you not play a deck that has an insane long round, the Silver Cyrenova, just all these things going for it, and you never have to play on blue coin? You're basically always a red coin deck, because you're always the attacker.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. One of my questions for you is, how fundamental do you think the ability to tutor a spy is when you're employing that type of strategy with something like him? Do you think the strategy would necessarily be as effective in ladder and tournament play if you didn't have basically multiple looks at finding your silver spy?
No. But being able to find your silver spy is probably one of the most important things in all of Gwent. It's why the spies deck pre-Midwinter was so good. People always overestimate how good those bronze engines were. The real reason that made that deck insane was just the fact that you could have reliable access to Cantarella Deuterain Farm.
Yeah.
So I wanna jump back into the whole Axeman thing. So it's definitely very strong in the fact that you can force people into these long rounds. And then we did a little back and forth on Reddit, and you were telling me about this kind of restore combo that you run, which allows you to have a round 3 short round play by reviving a Pirate Captain, Clan Corsair into a long ship, and that's really good too. But the one key weakness that I always find when trying to play Axemen is removal is really good against them. So people running Scorches, locks, resets, things like that. I mean, but your strategy is a little bit different now because you're not so all in on the Axemen, right?
Exactly.
I mean, what kind of brought you to build your deck like that, or bring you to that realization? Because I think when people,
it was kind of a natural conclusion of wanting to have a good round 3 if I'm up a card. So Freya's really bad in round 3, right? Because you never really want your Axeman in a 3-card round. Mm-hmm. So cutting Freya was just a natural decision. And when cutting Freya, you end up adding more cards that are good in short rounds. So you add your 3rd Corsair, you add the 2nd Pirate Captain, you add Haymade Battle Maiden. You just add all these cards that make your both rounds better by just cutting Freya.
I mean, do you feel that hurts you in those long rounds though? Because if you do run into someone with the Scorch or something, then you're having a lot more difficult time kind of building up that engine, yeah?
If your Axemen die, you're still a gold weather deck. You're playing 40+ point gold cards.
Yeah, that's
the
what
thing,
I've encountered as
weather...
well. Yeah, if they're using removal, they just die to the weather.
Not only is it the gold weather, in my opinion, one of the best things about his particular version of the deck, which I really like, and I don't play a lot of Axemen, but when I do, I will be stealing your deck list hardcore. It also decrease your vulnerability to Scorch type effects and things like that. When you're playing the Pirate Captains and the Corsairs, you're putting multiple bodies on the board. So if I'm trading a bronze for a silver and I'm getting plus value, I'm leaving 4 points on the board, I am perfectly fine with that exchange. I will take it all day.
So I guess it begs the question then is, why hasn't anyone else thought of this?
The deck is really hard to play optimally. I can't even play it on ladder for more than 3 games at a time. It is exhausting. You have to constantly play around Scorch, you're managing your resources, you're sequencing things in a way to think multiple turns ahead. It's a lot of work to play the deck.
How was it in the tournament? Because the tournament, you're not playing as back-to-back-to-back as ladder, but there's a very real fatigue setting in there. I mean, the tournament went on for hours. Trust me, I know.
That's a great question.
It was great. I didn't really mind having to play it once every hour or two. It got banned a couple times. I think I only played 5 or 6 matches with it.
Yeah,
I never lost a game with it.
How were people when they played that deck? Because I mean, they see Herald and it's pretty face up, kind of what you're going into. But do you feel that hurt you at all a little bit, or? Because you were also talking about the surprise factor, too, with your Nilfgaard and how that helped you.
Surprise factor doesn't matter when you're just playing a better deck than they are.
That is very true.
That's fair enough. Yeah, that's fair enough. What about... Sorry, just one last one. What about in the meta now? Because it seems like, to me at least, that the meta now is a lot more removal heavy. I mean, you have these all-in Immelrith decks, which we'll kind of get to, but do you feel that the Axeman deck is still thriving in this meta, or have you not really tried it out yet?
If everyone's playing Ilmarith, it's a problem, but I don't think that deck's good enough for everyone to actually play it. A bigger problem is if people start playing First Light, then I guess the deck's bad. But who's going to start playing First Light to beat Axemen? The deck's not popular enough on ladder.
I ran into some psychopath playing First Light, with mercenaries instead of reconnaissance.
Round 6
at once.
Yeah.
Round 6 of Swiss at the tournament I played against the First Light deck.
Yeah, it's so bad. It feels bad, man.
I couldn't believe it.
I also think that one of the things that's good against that deck, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is just my assumption here, is the Marjoram effects that leave a body behind. Things like Vesemir and Tribute are probably really, really powerful against you.
They're good, but they're still not usually good enough. You're still playing 40-point golds. What are they going to do?
What did you think about these didn't exactly take over ladder ever, but I had seen a couple and it sort of piqued my interest. They were Axeman decks, and they weren't running this whole restore into Pirate, Captain into Corsair type of deal, but they were running Siri Nova for just like a 1 to 2 card short round, while obviously losing a large majority of their consistency by playing 2 Axemans, things like that. Do you have any thoughts on those type of lists?
The deck's already inherently inconsistent. Like, it's part of the reason the deck's so difficult to play. So you have to play every hand so different than any previous hands. You don't have anything like Reconnaissance to fix your hands. You don't really have any thinning. It's just Udalric. So like, I don't know why you'd want to sacrifice consistency to play Siri Nova. You already have Restore.
Yeah.
I mean, as you said, a Restore is basically a Siri Nova. It's like,
Better.
what, 23 points? Yeah, there you
22.
go.
It actually is better, yeah. It's just a super strong deck. I've been playing like a list very, very similar to the one you're running previously, and I've had a lot of success with it. Especially, it was the first deck where I understood that you're supposed to pass in the blue coin every time. Like, it's not.
I think that was like a major
talking
thing
about
people
this.
Yeah.
That's a major thing people weren't thinking about either, because like, everyone always thinks you have to win round 1 as Axeman. Like, that was always the meme. It's just totally wrong.
Yeah, you don't
doesn't
have
matter.
to
Play round 1. It's sort of the same as winning, right? Like, you just take it out of the game.
Yeah, whenever you have inevitability over your opponent, you can just cold pass in the blue coin because they can't pass back. They have to play out round 2, and then you can just fight for your card and defend it, and then be up a card in round 3.
It is really hard to poke holes in this from like a game theory and strategic point of view. As little as I play Axeman, and I feel like I have a good win rate against it, maybe I'm just playing against shitters, because from a philosophical point of view, this seems really, really difficult to beat.
I agree. That's why I played it. I didn't even test that many games with it. I think I played like 12 games with a tournament with Axeman. I just knew it was the best deck.
One curious question about the particular deck. When are you comfortable? So let's say either you have red coin or you've drive passed into round 2, right? So you're on like pseudo red coin. When are you comfortable committing your golden weather? Is there a particular like checklist you run down? Obviously, it's all going to be a little bit different situationally type of deal. But are there any like flares that go off to tell you this is where it's okay to commit gold weather? I want to push them out here. How do you approach that? Because it is one of the more dynamic and powerful cards in your deck.
Well, in round 2, you just jam it, right? Because if they pass, then you just go into round 3 on even with like 10 cards.
Yeah.
So they can't just pass. So you just jam it and get the most value you can out of it. Try to pass as quickly as possible.
Do you wait for them to expand into a couple of rows first, or do you just slap it down and tell them, you know, I'm here to play, boys?
That's what Harpooners and Udalric is for.
Harpooners are so good in that deck, right?
Oh yeah, they're insane.
Yeah, it's definitely the Harpooners are like one of the nicest thing about that, because I've been running a lot of Henselt with Drought in it, and like that's often what I have to do is what Joe's saying, like wait for them to commit a little bit, you know, hope you have Thaler so you can play into an empty row and get value that way. But with the Harpooners, you just jam it and like they can stack all they want. You're just going to be moving stuff around, which is pretty good. Yeah, so I guess I wanted to run through. So we obviously saw your amazing last series against Dr. Gurr. I mean, the 5 blue coins, that was insane. I don't think that
the crowd was already going wild, and it would have gone more wild if it wasn't 1 o'clock in the effing morning. Like, we're all half dead at that point. And by the 5th blue coin, it was like, what did this guy do? Did he run over a gypsy or something? Like, what happened to him, man?
Oh god.
Yeah. I don't think we need to go too into that because everyone saw it and it was awesome. But besides that, you really didn't play any games on the feature match. Like, even I was kind of like, you know, who's trynet? I hear he's killing it, but I don't know what he looks like because I just haven't seen you before that. What was the one series that you played before that you thought was really interesting? And kind of just walk us through it, what happened and why it was so cool and what you were thinking at the time.
Okay, so round 1, game 2 was one of the most ridiculous games of my life. I was playing Axeman,
right?
I played Liston, yeah. Did you hear about this?
I've read the write-up, yeah, but go on, tell the story.
Okay, so I'm Axeman. My hand is like 6 kind of bad short round cards. Like, I just have a long round for round 2. If I get into round 2, 6 cards, I'm fine. But I had to drive past round 1. So I'm up 70 points with Skellige Storm and Gold Weather ticking. The Skellige Storm's about to run out of targets, but I mean, I just have to drive past. So I pass. I hero pass with 6 cards left in round 2. He spends all his cards, and I end up winning by 3 points. He kills all my Axemen, doesn't matter.
There's no way for him to calculate 6 cards worth of math in like the 75 seconds, right? He's just got to look at his hand, make a judgment, and go, I think I can do this, or I think I can't do this type of deal.
It was RNG too. Like, he had to roll for, what's the card? Vigilforts.
Ah, good old. It
hit a good card. It hit that here.
So what were you thinking at that point as you're just watching him like play cards down? You like, oh man, he's got me, or you just like?
Oh, as soon as that pass, I was like, there's always game 3.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. How is that not on the feature match? It was weird because if I recall, I think you took your Swiss losses in round 4 and round 5. So you were like always floating near the top of the beginning and just somehow managed to dodge the feature match area. And then you took 2 losses. So then, it was going to be, you just sort of always happened to not get in the spotlight.
Yep. Whatever.
Did you prefer
It's
it
kind
that
of
way?
helpful.
Yeah, do you think
It's
that
definitely
helped you at
better.
all?
Definitely, yeah. People couldn't scout me, for sure.
Yeah, that's
Nobody
a
knew
big
about
thing.
the spies deck.
That's a big thing, I think, is, a lot of people don't know, but during the kind of Swiss rounds when everyone was in the main area playing their matches, they had the big projector screen showing the feature match, just showing the live stream. And even I, like, every once in a while, I'd get bored in between turns or something, would look up and see what's going on. Not to cheat or anything, but just because I was like, oh, let's see who's playing and see what's going on.
Yeah,
But,
I mean, it's a giant focal point of a live event, right? Like, it's just something that's going to be up there.
Mhm.
That's
It never
why,
ended up mattering. Between rounds, I was taking notes of what people were playing.
yeah, there's a common thing to do. That's why in Magic, in the top 8, you get opponents' deck lists because
Correct.
you've been featured so much, you want even information.
There's no way to police that, really, I don't think.
Yeah,
so it's kind of one
and
of those
that's why
things.
they give out the deck list, because this was sort of a smaller scale type of event. But let's say, we have 5 different teams all with 10 players on it, and then, I come in there, I don't have a team or anything. I'm at such a disadvantage because my 9 friends that got knocked out of the tournament, they're all scouting, writing down, he has Igni, he has this, he has that, and they can all prep me for it. Whereas your solo player, that's just going in there, mad skills, crushing a tournament, is going to be at a heavy disadvantage there. So that's why at some of the higher level events, they do give that away. Also, if you're like doing, but we only streamed the semifinals, for example, concurrently. We only did one semifinals match, but if we were showing both, the guy who's sitting there first gets to watch the whole round, and
Right.
there's all sorts of advantages in the game there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the morality of scouting is something that has been much debated in the Magic
It has
community
been.
to inconclusive results.
You can't police it.
Yeah, it's too hard.
Yeah, you can't police it. I think it's fine. When I won different game, much smaller game, when I won my world championship at Game of Thrones, I had my buddies fucking scouting the shit out of everyone in that tournament. I want to know everything, all the information, in between semifinals and finals, I'm taking laps around the parking lot, just saying shit out loud, trying to remember it. Yeah, as long as no one's cheating or doing anything illegal, open information's open information. And
Yeah, I
think-
scout people at IQs. Like, I don't care. I'll scout everyone.
yeah, make the most of available information. You obviously don't go flip over a card in your opponent's deck, right? Like, that's where it becomes cheating.
Yeah.
But if the information's open, make the best use of it, in my opinion.
And it's hard to really take the moral high ground, too, because if you're not doing it, the guy next to you is, and it's like,
Uh-huh.
am I putting myself at a disadvantage? Like,
They
it's
all
very,
are,
It's
trust
very
me.
muddy, yeah.
All the good players are doing it.
How did you feel being up on the feature match? Because you were the very, very last match. It was your first time being in the feature, and this was at what, like 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, East Coast time. I mean, did you feel that being in front of that camera? Were you nervous? Did you play better because of it? How are you feeling there?
No, I think I'm like used to real life tournaments because I play Magic a lot, so I'm kind of just used to having people watch me play. So it wasn't a big deal for me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the thing. Getting that feature match. I'm sorry to cut you off, but getting that feature match experience really helps you out, right? I mean, I know for myself, the first time I was in a feature match, I was definitely nervous and made some plays I wouldn't have, but over time, you get used to it.
There are old archived videos of me on the SCG tour punting into oblivion in like my first feature match because I was so nervous.
Links.
But you get
I have
used to
nothing
it.
to do later.
Yeah.
It's funny.
It's pretty funny, but
It's-
it's like it's something you have to get used to. Like once you do, it's like it's a lot of value. Like we've seen it at like the Gwent the tournaments at Life Coach's house. I forget the name of.
The
But there were
Gwent
people who,
Slams.
yeah, Gwent Slam. There were a bunch of people who had never done live tournaments before, and you saw that like the nerves of that show up even in that casual environment. Like if you're just not used to that, it's going to take a toll on you.
It's interesting because I almost had the kind of opposite experience with that, where instead of punting, I think it made me play a little bit better. I remember, I think it was round 4 when I was in the feature, or round 4 or 5, and the round before that, I just played like
It was
really...
4, I think you were playing against Liston, and that was until the
right.
semifinals. I think that was my favorite match of the day.
That was a good one, but before that, I had played against Goreflow, who was another really good guy in the top 8, and like that series was bad. I'm glad it was not on camera because I didn't play well. And then I kind of got in front of the feature match, and it was in my mind, like, okay, people are watching, like, you can't screw up. And, I was roping, I was taking my time, and I think I didn't make any too egregious misplays, so I kind of had the opposite experience.
How much of that was you versus how much of that was the sunglasses you were wearing? Because they look
That's true, I did have that kind of barrier between us, so maybe that was the real reason instead, but, yeah. I'm glad you guys like that, at
didn't
least.
know, came in a mighty 9th place. Unfortunately, he got wrecked by tiebreakers, but he put on a hell of a show and a hell of a performance, and he did very, very well in the feature match. It was a great match to watch him versus List, and if you guys haven't seen it, I highly recommend checking out the archives.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, I played very badly in the finals, but I don't think it has anything to do with me being on camera. It was more just, it was 12:30 in the morning, and I was playing
Oh, yeah, that's gotta be exhausting at that point. You've been playing for a million years.
Just so much.
Yeah.
I was definitely feeling it too, like round 4 and 5, and my last game against Pumpkin too was just really bad too because I don't even stream that long. I stream like 3-4 hours. I'm like, okay, I'm done. So the fatigue is a real big factor, just the length of the event.
Yeah.
What did you ban versus Pumpkin? I'm super curious, Shu.
Oh, I banned his Philivandrel. He was trying.
Did my Dagon deck at least get a win? He was like, dude, I'm just stealing your deck, Joe, and I'm playing that.
He was trying to convince me not to because, it's like a meme deck, but I was like, shit, dude, I'm playing Great Swords. I can't get scorched by this thing. It's Pumpkin, man. He's running like 3-4 Scorches in there.
It could be anything. Like, it could literally be anything.
Yeah.
Gotta ban it. Who knows?
So talking about Philivandrel, trynet. Now, don't mention any names because you don't want to embarrass anyone in particular. But what was the weirdest, wonkiest, maybe worst deck that you saw over the course of the Swiss?
The Icy deck with First Light.
Okay.
It was the most tilting deck, too.
Yeah.
Because it was bad and working. Yeah. That's the.
And it was good against Axeman, yeah.
Yeah, that's always the most tilting thing when they're playing like some narrow card that's bad against everything except your deck. It's like, dude, come on, you're just vomiting equity to beat me and me alone. It's so tilting.
I have a funny kind of behind the scenes story. So,
do tell.
After Pumpkin gets into the top 8, because we played each other the last round, he's kind of like, oh crap, I need another deck. Like, what do I play? I'm like, well, you could play Hensel, you could play this, blah blah blah. He's like. And we're just looking on GwentDB for decks, and he comes across a 40-card full test deck, and he's like, well, what about this? And I'm like, I mean, I'm not going to tell you to play it, but it's your call, man. So he brings the 40-card full test into the top 8, and the guy he plays against bans it. I just could not believe it.
Well, 40 cards does mean that there was more power in this deck, and we all know that's how card games work, right? So, like,
yeah.
And that.
I mean, with Hubert, that's literally true.
Sure, because Mandrake wasn't everywhere in the tournament.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw Monomarth run the 40-card deck. We saw, who was it that run this fucking Shoop Ida deck?
Yeah.
That was
my
pretty
god, that
funny.
was Saint Kiwi. That was Saint Kiwi playing
or
the
Shoop Ada.
Northern Realms deck you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've since talked to him in a few different streams. That was some heroic nonsense there. He knew it was full blown nonsense going in, but damn, it was cool to watch.
Yeah, some guy even played like Radovid Revenant with Gold Weather against me. Like that was really interesting. So I'm glad that there was a nice mix of decks. Even Liston had really cool decks. He was running like Hand Buff with Swordmasters, and he had a really cool Dagon with it was Death Wish, but he ran Arrakis.
I went and found him immediately after your match. Yeah, he was running Arrakis Queen, which is interesting, and like I don't think it's optimal, but damn was it cool. I just immediately had to go find him and talk to him, and like it's another late game bomb type of deal, and then maybe they ban it thinking you're consumed. That kind of thing plays into it. It's some interesting stuff, and it was just super cool. Liston was a great guy.
Yeah, it seems like because the Deathwish, like Dagon is like kind of whatever in that list. Like it might be the highest on raw power level, but there's obviously like no direct synergy with any
that's
Deathwish
the
cards.
thing.
So there's like a debate for like whatever monster leader except like Aridin, I guess.
It has a lot of direct synergy with dry passing.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, it's one of the really good like damage over time decks, which can put people into weird spots. You know, you don't want to play a long round against them, but a short round isn't great either because they have some power plays too.
Yeah.
So talk to me about your specific Dagon deck, trynet, because me, basically last season, all I did was play Dagon. I had a lot of success with it, and I know that the deck list that you brought and the deck list that I've been playing a lot have some very notable differences. Like, you are a very big advocate of Woodland Spirit, you're on a Roach game plan. I'm not sure if you're running one or two Foglets. Talk to me a little bit about your Dagon list and why.
So the main thing that brought me to Dagon is you have a very good long round. You have Archospore, Fogs, and Cyclops. Cyclops kills engine units.
Larry, it's properly called.
Sure, Larry. You have this probably the strongest medium to short round deck aside from Fear combo with Ghoul, Azrael, Brewis, Dow, Griffins, all that stuff.
Correct. I would totally agree.
Yeah, you have crazy tempo plays to punish your opponent for playing into a round with Woodland or Dagon. So if you drive past on blue coin and they don't immediately pass back, you probably just win the game on the spot with a Woodland Spirit, right? How does any deck beat 16 plus 2 per turn?
Yeah.
It usually doesn't. My contention would be most people that are playing into rounds in that situation, like, aren't you winning a lot of those games anyway?
Not necessarily. These people still get a lot of passes against you in round 2.
So are you just assuming that everyone is on your school of thought that they're just passing every other situation?
Yeah, 'cause if they're not, you just beat them anyway.
It's fair. It's fair. We're both applying the same "we're beating them anyway" terminology. We're just applying it in very different ways, which is super
Sure.
interesting.
Yeah.
I'd rather beat people that are playing optimally than like beat people more that aren't playing optimally. If that makes sense.
That's
It
true.
does.
Yeah.
How is the Roach in particular for you?
It makes your Woodland Spirit good. You don't play Woodland if you're not playing Roach.
I totally agree with that. And it didn't become awkward with Gals at any point. Like, your list was a little bit more. I'm a firm believer as a monster main, I guess you would say, that I wouldn't want to play Gals in a deck that doesn't have Woodland because I want, a significant number of non-situational golds that you can just sort of slam down, make it great on a board. But once you put Woodland, then cards like Roach, cards like Gals, they start to get a lot better, right?
Sure. If anything, I'd say Gales was awkward because the situations where you want your Brewis and situations where you want your Woodland Spirit are totally different. So if your deck is ever
Yes.
Woodland Spirit plus Brewis,
And your Azrael and your Frightener, same kind of deal.
yeah, it gets really weird.
Yeah, Gales is definitely a lot better where you have like congruous golds, like they're all trying to do the same stuff. I've encountered
Exactly.
that a lot myself. Yeah.
With the new patch, I've been playing Dandelion Poet over the Gales, and it's been pretty good.
I've also been messing around with Dandelion Poet a lot. I just like because a lot of like Gwent's gameplay right now is like just leveraging tempo and like being able to play Poet in opportune spots is like really important.
You can
So-
also Poet out of Dow, so you can play Dow with 11 points tempo. It's
Yeah.
huge.
It's really nice.
That's
It's,
what,
it's
like, I was
another
using it-
Malorn, right?
Yeah, I was using it for great swords, like because normally you have to like sacrifice a lot of tempo to set that up, and with Poet you don't have to do that. It's just a really valuable effect in decks that aren't really like choked on golds.
Poet with Roach too. That's so many points.
It's so
It's-
many points.
That's exactly what I was going to ask. I haven't tried Poet in monsters yet. How often do you find yourself using like Poet Roach into Frightener type of deal? Because monsters notoriously are one of the factions that don't have cheap, access to some of their spies. They don't have a Rain Farm, they don't have a Uber Goog, that type of deal. Have you been doing that a lot, or it's mostly setting up the DAOs?
That's the biggest drawback I see to cutting the Gales is you have less Frightener access. The tempo is just so big, and it makes your draws a lot less awkward. It's mostly just for setting up your bronzes, but like being able to play your bronzes with more points is worth a gold slot.
It's so good.
Yeah, that's one of the things I think Dagon struggles with. The Death Wish, at least, is they have this damage over time stuff, but it takes a bit of time to set it up. Your Dows are 6 points, your Larrys are just 8 when you throw them down. So it can get out tempo definitely for sure.
And, like, the way I've been playing the deck is you set up some damage over time, you see how much you can get done, and then the key point in the round is when can I get a Dow down and not fall behind on tempo? And as soon as I can do that, that's it. The corner's turned, I can slam 17s and 19s, and it's like GG.
100%. Yep.
Yeah. So
That's,
let's.
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. No, go
I think
ahead.
you're gonna do what I was doing. I was just gonna say like we could pivot to the new meta.
Yeah, perfect. There you go. That host ESP. Yeah, so what about the other new cards? I mean, have you guys been playing any interesting decks? Joe, I'm sure you've tried the Sabbath deck out there.
I only tried including Sabbath in, like, my original Dagon deck. I've sort of just been playing a lot of Arena, honestly. But, yeah, I mean, I got to, like, 33 or 3,400, some nonsense like that. But I thought it wasn't that good in the typical Dagon list because it was sort of getting caught in the crossfire. There's dedicated Inlord Sabbath decks out there, right? And even if they're not very good, they are popular. And when you're at the beginning of the ladder and you're not in Grandmaster yet, everyone's just playing what they want to try out the new cards. They're playing fun decks. And so people are teching against these type of decks, and you don't really want to get in the crossfire of, I'm not an Imlerith deck, but they always have an answer for it. So I found it to be like slightly suboptimal. I still like Caretaker better. That's really the only change I've made. Otherwise, I've just been jamming Dagon and, being fine.
Yeah, to your point, Joe, I mean, it feels right now like the meta is super warped, like, around this Imlerith Sabbath deck. Because, like, people are seeing it everywhere. Like, I've tried a little bit. But it's causing, like, effects in other decks. Like, I've seen Skellige running, like, Vesemir with Mandrake. Like, I think we were talking during Wild Hunt, Joe, about how Mandrake was, like, super good at that tournament just because you have Alchemy and it's, like, pretty good against
I think it was one
Dagon
of those
and Great Swords.
We definitely talked about that.
It feels even more extreme now with this Imlerith Sabbath running around. Like, I've seen it in Brewer decks. I've seen it in, like, Northern Realms. Like, I've seen Mandrake everywhere. And I think it has a lot to do with these Sabbath decks. These all-in Sabbath decks.
I think it's only good if you have a body attached to it, in my opinion. Like, the dwarf decks that are just jamming it, or the elf decks, rather, they're all the same. But, like, if you don't have a body attached to it, I'm not a fan of it. That being said, I think the card's really good.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to not just, like, straight die to the Sabbath decks. Because even though, like, Sabbath is easy to answer, like, if you could just have Mandrake or, like, a lot of damage things are usually going to be enough to kill it on the turn it enters, etc. If you don't do that, you're dead. You lose the game. So, like, people, like, it's just keeping everyone honest, and it's having, like, a not particularly healthy effect on the metagame. I do think that card's probably going to be reevaluated in the not too distant future, but the fair gameplay of that card is definitely something I think is worth preserving. It's just that when, like, you get to untap and then buff it, and then it's like, okay, I could cold pass right now, and you still can't beat me.
Not on tap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what else do I call it? Like, his turn pass back.
I say the same thing, dude. I'm
yeah,
just
like, if there was a better word, I'd use it. But yeah,
but
you know what I mean.
I actually played a game where I just, like, dry passed against a deck, and some guy Sabbath, he Mandraked it, put an A-Rush on it, and, like, I just lost the game right there.
Yeah, just
even though I was down 3 cards. And even on the same side, like, I played that deck probably 5 or 6 games, and I think I played 4 where, like, the Sabbath was just instantly, like, killed. And then I had, like, 1 or 2 where I just, like, the guy just conceded literally round 3 of the game, like, 3 turns in of round 1.
You made it to round 3. Nice.
What about you, Trynet? How have your with and against Sabbath experiences gone so far?
I haven't run into it on the ladder yet. I don't know.
Really?
Yeah, you guys say this everywhere. I haven't played it yet. I'm top almost 100 on the ladder, I think. I played a lot of games.
Well, that's it. You're too high up.
Maybe, but the deck seems like it'd be really good for climbing. So you don't need a good win rate to climb right now?
No, you don't need a good win rate at all.
Yeah, and the deck plays really fast games.
Extremely popular. The first couple. Did you stagger your climb and not do it like the first couple of days, or maybe we just queued into different things? Because I haven't played ranked since Friday, but I ended my Friday stream right around number 100. So I was, in the mix or whatever. And I just saw a bunch of alchemy in the second most popular deck with this like Sabbath themed deck.
Yeah, there's a lot of alchemy. I didn't really run into the Sabbath though.
Interesting.
I think the Sabbath climbed really quick.
Thing,
Yeah, I think it climbed really quick in popularity, and then it just started getting hard countered, so then it dipped really quick as well. And I think it's getting
Maybe
close to that,
different
like,
times.
I think it's getting close to that, like, equilibrium point,
Yeah, where it's like a thing in the format. Because, like, I remember the first 2 days, like, because what happened is, like, I went on, streamed Arena, both Arena runs, I got Francesca with Imlerith, and I was like, wow, this is really busted. I want to try this in Constructed. And I was, like, playing that deck all day, and I think Swim also played Imlerith, so, like, there was a lot of, like, people
that could have been it. I might have been
so,
playing
like,
while Swim was
the first
playing
2
it.
days, I think that, like, people were like, oh, this deck seems dope. But, it's fun, and it's, like, kind of cool, but it's not, like, good. So I think people, like, figured that out over the course of a couple days.
What about the new Triss card that came out? I've seen a lot of decks. I've seen a lot of decks running it. I personally have played it a little bit in Henselt. What are you guys' thoughts on that card?
I think it's okay. It's like a John Talus that doesn't thin, but also never bricks. So it's probably like a slight net improvement of a couple of percentage points. I think it's sort of designed correctly, but I don't see it having a huge impact.
Yeah, I think it's cool. Sorry, go ahead, guys.
I was gonna say, I think it's cool design, but I don't think it's super impactful. It's a cool card to have around. It doesn't really matter.
It's going to, like, whenever you have a deck that, like, cares about finding a certain spell or a certain, like, subtype of spells, like, having repeated access to that is relevant, and, like, with the extra 6 on the house. It's like, and if it's good in Hensel right now, like getting extra winches is super good. But there is an upper limit on like how many Naneki you can shuffle back in your deck. So like getting like 5 machines doesn't really matter. But if there's ever a spell that like you just want to see as much of this as possible, like Triss is going to be really good at that.
Yeah, she's really good in Hensel, just getting extra winches, giving you more rolls at hitting that like super high roll Hensel. I've been playing her a bit in like a Revenant deck, where you're playing Alzur's Thunders, you're trying to get out a lot of spells and things like that. That's been pretty fun. I don't know if it's good, but it's fun.
I'm sure it's fun, but I just couldn't justify putting Alzur's Thunder in a real deck right now when everything has multiple bodies and bronzes are worth 13 points.
Well, you play with a body, obviously. I'm playing Tormented Mages, guys. Come on, I'm not that bad. But yeah, I think Joe said it best. She's like, if you're gonna make create cards, like make them like Triss. She's really well designed on that front, I think.
Yeah, anything where you have agency over the create pool, I like. Like even
and it's in the deck building phase too, right? Like it's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's why I don't have as big an issue with Elven Scout as other people, because you have some amount of agency over the pool. Like you can still it's still sketchy. Like I definitely understand.
It's just a power level thing. On
yeah,
that card.
but like I like create pools where you have agency over the pool in deck building.
Well, even the Elven Scout one feels really wide. I mean,
Yeah.
I compare it more to like the winch, because you know exactly what you're getting, some sort of machine or some sort of spell. The pool is narrow enough. Like with Triss, you're pulling at most from like a choice of like 7 or 8 maybe. That's on the extreme end. I oftentimes see only 3 or 4 choices, and you can predict what you're gonna get before you even roll it. Like I can probably tell what's in your deck. I know what's in mine, so.
Does the Triss work like Slave Driver, where you'll see multiple copies of the spell? Yeah, that was my question. I actually haven't played any of it. I've just played against it.
No, I think it's only one of. I'm not 100% sure on that though.
So what have you guys thought about Arena? We're talking about a little bit of Create. We're talking about the diversity of cards. Everyone here had to have played some Arena, right? My initial impression was it's going to be dumb highlight mode, but a ton of fun. And I haven't changed my position at all. I'm having a blast with it. I don't think it's particularly skill intensive, but like, I don't know, it's really fun. Having 2 Hjalmars and then each one of the little idiots you kill buffs both your guys. Like, that's sweet. I don't know, there's a lot of cool stuff going on. What do you guys think? I like
I've personally found the average case for Arena to not be super enjoyable, but I'm also not target audience for limited. I don't like limited in most games. But there's the ceiling games where you get to pull off like the insane combo or have like 5 Dandelion Poets or whatever. Like that stuff's dope. That's fun. But I just think that that's like a very low minority of the experience, at least as far as I've seen this.
Yeah, I think it's fun. Personally, it's not really for me. I don't think I'll invest too much into it seriously. And I also think there are ways that they could, still keep it very fun, but also make it slightly more competitive. Like, as far as I know, there's like absolutely no matchmaking in it, which I think is kind of a bad idea.
There definitely is. There's 100% matchmaking.
There has
100%.
to be.
100%, dude. I'm telling you, after you get 6 wins, you're just playing against the nonsense decks. Like, I had 2 bad decks earlier today that easily went 6-0 and then just 0-3'd from that point. And they were like 3 to 3.5s on the scale. Yeah. You can definitely see the power creep in the decks as you rank up the ladder. If not, my sample size has been insanely different than what you would expect to see.
Yeah, I haven't played that much, but I haven't noticed anything like that. And as far as I've heard, a lot of people are saying that there's not. But again, I really have no idea. But even in the early stages, I mean, I'm just getting ranked up against like a lot of new players. You can just tell, from the way they play. You see their level like 15 or something, and even that's kind of like, eh.
There's a lot of roping in Arena. I don't know if that was just a me thing that I was encountering that, but like every opponent I played in Arena, like every turn. I don't know why. Maybe I just got unlucky.
Yeah, I've seen a lot, but I don't know.
What about you, trynet? You haven't said anything yet about the Arena. It doesn't seem like it's your type of mode, huh?
Okay, so full disclaimer, I'm not really a limited player. I never really played Hearthstone Arena. I don't draft Magic, so I'm not the target audience. I've played 3 runs. One, I just had like the Stone Nuts deck with like double Woodland Spirit, double Selkirk, and like 8 other golds. The easiest 9 wins of my life. One run I had like 10 different 10-point bronzes and 4 golds, and 2 of them being Royal Decree. just like Brick City, that got like 4 wins or something after a disconnect. It just overall,
the disconnects are a whole other thing.
yeah, it just feels like a clown fiesta. I don't really plan on playing any more of it. It feels more like Tavern Brawl than an actual game mode.
What I will say is, a lot of the points that you brought up about how you attack the tournament and the fundamentals of it, never ever play the blue coin, particularly with the removal of silver spies and the fact that decks aren't catered towards specifically being good on blue coin, it's showing so much prevalence in the arena mode. In this particular mode, there are fewer ways to sort of, reverse that disadvantage. So there is a large amount of blue coin passing. What do you think about that in general?
Yeah, I mean, Word Answer is the best card in the format, right?
I think so. I think it's the best bronze by far.
It's that and Old Geared are like 1 and 2.
See, I think Old Geared and Merkvarg are mid-tier picks now. I thought they were the Stone Cold Nuts when I started. They're not, because the games don't play out that way. The people that are going to play into you on blue coin, my experiences anyway, I was talking to some people whose opinions I respect, and they had different opinions. But the games I've been playing, the people that play into me on blue coin, I'm like a 95% favorite anyway. So Old Geared really doesn't do anything. It basically sort of prevents a War Dancer, but there's so many bronzes in the pool that War Dancer is such a rare card. It doesn't prevent them from playing Mahakam Defender or Barbagazi. And in general, the bronzes are so bad that you're just trying to mulligan them away anyway, right? So the only bronzes that have relevance are like Barbagazi, Mahakam Defender, cards that can impact the next round. I guess the next tier of cards is like the Hawker Support that can give you sort of 3 carryover into the next round, because a lot of times you are just going dry pass. So I have not been impressed with neither Old Geared nor Merkvarg, and they screw up your Scowl into Cursed Toad, and I think Scowl and Cursed Toad are insanely high picks in the format. So I've been taking them a lot lower than I thought I would. I've sort of reversed my position on them.
Sure, and like round 2 carryover with points on board doesn't really matter if you win the round if you win round 1, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
I've seen kind of a shift in the last few days where a lot of the decks that just are like insane and blow me out are ones that punish that long round. But it's really difficult to draft those kind of decks. I mean, you need a lot of weather, you need a lot of like DOT effects. I think the first one I drafted had like Yedcon, like a ton of weather, like different like long ships and things like that, and I would just like blow people out of games. But it's really hard to draft those sorts of decks.
Yeah, the other thing is like weather clear, right? Because as I was sort of talking about before, a lot of the bronzes, they're just cards you want to throw away. You are not trying to actively keep them in your hand. So the only basic bronzes that you would want are something like War Dancer, which is just completely insane, something that can buff your hand for a future round, and or the 9 or 10 strength weather clear ones. Movements has some relevance if you have some weather in there. Just on a point value, they're not doing anything.
Yeah, any Silver Mage with the Alzur's Thunder on it is just like an insane card.
Oh yeah, they're insane.
You get like a card
Even
which gives you access.
good.
You get a card which gives you a choice of the 3 best types of cards in the game, like removal, weather, weather clear, and with a 4-point body. Like, it's absolutely insane.
Yeah, pretty good.
What do you guys think? Just one leader. What do you think is your favorite or best leader for Arena?
Francesca.
Croc?
It's also very good.
I'd say Calviet or Brewer.
I like Brewer myself. Yeah, I'm a huge Brewer fan.
Yeah,
it's interesting. There's a lot of good ones. No one's run into a Henselt yet, right? Just hasn't happened. Never will happen.
Never lived the dream. No, see, the thing is, like, you're actively discouraged from drafting multiple cards because if you hit like Shoop, you get punished. It's the best card in the format. So
I saw McBeard.
I'm actually not sure I agree with that.
It's like it's just the free roll, like the best gold in the game. Like you don't have.
Is it though? Like I'm not sure. It's definitely up there, right? Oglace is completely insane, and like Burner Brand is really, really nutty in a lot of decks too. Particularly if you have enough weather effects that you can just overload their clears. I'm still obviously super high on Shoop, but I'm not sure that he's the clear best card I've ever seen anymore.
Shoop high rolling Burner Brand. He has a Burner Brand mode with all the lanes though. You could just Skulling Storm all the lanes.
I guess.
Shoop high rolling for draw cards is like the only card advantage in the format too. That's kind of what makes it so insane to me.
Yeah, Yeah, the draw card mode is nonsense.
Well, I disagree with that. I think the draw card mode is one of the worst modes because how often are you in a round 2 where you're able to like take advantage of drawing the card? A lot of times you're doing the dry pass thing, and like 4 points plus draw a card isn't that insane in round 3 when you don't have a constructed deck built around last say mattering that much.
I bleed in round 2.
Yeah.
Have you found that to be good? I haven't. I
Depends on the
never
rest of
want
your
to
deck.
play round 2.
It's
Sure, there are decks where it could be good.
It's like it's a spy, except you go +4, so you can still contest on points. And if you don't, if you're not able to win on that axis, you still got the card. Like, so it just gives you the ability to just like go either a card up or 2 cards up because you can still contest the round on points.
Okay, but how often are you doing that where you're just spending like your most powerful gold that you drafted on a 3 out of 5, or however the math works out, to try and hit this draw card when I'm bleeding them? Isn't it just the higher percentage play to save my shoot for round 3? I don't know. I guess agree to disagree. I'm not a fan of dropping shoot in round 2.
Because you're not just bleeding them, you still have the potential to 2-0 them.
Yeah.
Yeah, even just drawing the card
Sure.
puts people into a lot of bad situations. Like, now, say you get on blue coin and I draw the card on red, now you have to play your high tempo cards in round 1 to stay ahead. Like, it forces people to play suboptimally in a lot of times.
Yeah, I think it's very, very, very strong.
The same reason Silver Spies are good.
Yeah. Anything that like allows you to gain card advantage, like anything that provides a path to that, is like the most important cards in the game.
Yeah, just like how Aquist, even if it doesn't go off, it'll just shove someone out of the round if they can't deal with it.
Yeah.
In Arena, I've been very disappointed with Ocfist. Everyone always has
All
some sort
engine
of way to
cards.
kill it, right?
Everyone has
There's
like
so much
9
removal.
thunders.
Wow.
Like there's like just a million thunders in Arena.
Because it's
From,
on the
like,
mages, you're
Yeah.
actively incentivized to take like Champion of Champion and Selkirk. Like
Yeah.
these are amazing
Yeah.
cards
Nothing
already.
lives. Everything dies in Arena. It's just don't have cards with text.
All
just-
men must die.
You just always trade up with removal cards, you know? If you play an Aquist and I play a mage, like, I'm just up 4 cards. Or
Playing
4
Pentago
points,
with
I
4
mean.
points.
4 points.
That card's busted. It's
Yeah.
even better than Vernon Roach.
You just always trade up, and even if you use it on like a 10-point card, you're still trading up. It's really
Oh
good.
my god, is Roach good? Is he
Roach is
really?
great,
I haven't
yeah.
been team him ever.
Just for 4
Think
free
that
points.
deals
3 points.
7
Yeah.
that has the potential to screw up your deck?
Nah, it's
Oh,
like
the
you have
Roach.
no other mulligans though. Like it's so easy to just have those like free roll cards in your deck because like what else are you mulliganing?
Yeah.
I mean, I have a lot of decks that are like Vesemir into like Runestone, and I'll take the Vesemir early, but sometimes you only get 1 Runestone, so you have to like set that up as a combo. I've actually, and I think this is bad, but I've had 2 decks with She-Troll into Rotfiend, and my god is the payoff there when it works, because everyone stacks against like multiple Weather Rose. I've been sort of building these little 2-card combos into my deck, so maybe it's just worse for me. Maybe I'm just playing terribly.
I found if you get a deck with like some decent amount of synergy, that's often more important than like the number of golds and silvers you get. What do you guys think about that?
I mean that's true, but it's like the format is situated right now in such a way where it is bad EV to try and assemble synergies, where you're just
Right.
going to get blown out a high percentage of the time, and yeah, like 20-ish% or whatever, you'll get your stuff and you'll have a good run, but that's just not going to win you more games on average, which is why I don't like the current system, because you should be incentivized to go for that stuff. That should be like the point, but it's kind of not.
Yeah,
Even-
but I
Even
think
simple
you're right
stuff
in a-
though.
Yeah,
Like-
I think you're right in a lot of. I'm sorry. Which one of us is going to talk? You want to?
You go, Joe. You go.
Okay. Whatchamacallit? I think you're right in a lot of situations. But for example, with the She-Troll thing I was talking about, since I value bronzes so little, like, is there a really big difference between me taking a Rot Fiend and me taking a Siege Tower? There's really not in my mind. Otherwise, I'm just going to mulligan it away anyway. And then if I hit a She-Troll, I'm looking at some very serious potential later. So I think like bronze into silver and bronze into gold synergy is totally reasonable because the bronzes are basically all throwaway picks for me. The other synergies are a lot tougher, and then I would agree with you a lot more.
It's even simple stuff that works pretty well on its own. Like, I had one draft where I got Draug, then I would Vilgefortz one of the 1-point Draugs to remove it, and then I would Sheldon and get like a really big buff. And like, yeah, those are all great cards, but like that little bit of synergy just brought it over the edge where it was like insane.
Yeah, it comes up. I just think that it's like on average, Like when there's some low opportunity cost ones, like if it's a card's reasonable and this card's
it's all about
reasonable,
opportunity.
by their power combined, they're better. Then yeah, sure, there's like no opportunity cost to that. But any of the cards that do have opportunity cost, like Necker or whatever, like you just can't ever take.
You're right.
Yeah.
I'm not out here
That's why I was
drafting.
talking about like investing your runestone, because the runestones are so good anyway.
Yeah, I'm not out here drafting like Darelon foot soldiers or anything like that.
Yeah.
That's
But I
a
think you
little
like. I
too
think you
much.
should be able to. I think that the draft format should be situated in a way where it's not like completely insane to take that. I think that'd be cool. Like if text box mattered.
Now that
That's
we've
a-
all touched the arena mode, do you guys think we should have the leader first, or are you guys okay with the leader last system?
I think it doesn't matter, honestly. It's such a
I
small
would still-
difference.
I would still prefer first, but the rest of the format's such a meme. I don't care.
I've been thinking a lot about kind of what Truedawn said, this whole synergy question arena, and like how they could maybe promote that and why it may be good and bad. I had a few good ideas. Like one was you, instead of picking a card, your first pick is like a keyword. So you'll choose a keyword like reveal, consume, spying, and then your next like 3 or 5 picks are cards that have that keyword. So you can kind of get some synergy going real quick, and then try and build the rest of your draft towards that. There's like lots of ways you can do it.
That's
Or
interesting.
Maybe pick your leader, and their keywords get applied to the first few picks. What do you guys think? Like, is that something they should do? Is try and push more synergy in arena or not?
See, I think your way works if you're going to, in general, make bronzes a larger part of the game. With bronzes just being so bad to ever put onto the board, I don't think that plan necessarily works, because a lot of the synergistic type of cards are the bronzes. While I love the idea, I think they would have to change the drop rates of gold and silver or something like that. Maybe you could do another way to accomplish the same goal is like draft 35 cards and only put 26 of them into your deck, so you can afford to take some riskier picks. And if this synergy pans out, I don't get heavily punished for not hitting it. That type of deal.
Yep, that's one thing that happens in the Eternal and Magic is you can make speculative picks because you don't have to put all the cards in your. That's one of the ways you can do it. I kind of like the idea of making it limited to 2 factions. Oh, like you can make this a separate mode too. Like you keep the meme arena and then like have like a ranked one or whatever, where it's your first pick is between 5 cards of each individual faction. You pick one from that faction, and then the next pick is the remaining 4, and you pick a different one, and then those are your 2 factions. So you can actually try and assemble some synergies because the pool is so much more limited, and you're actually able to like have a plan and like, okay, these are the mechanics that are in these factions. I can try and build towards this or whatever. Things like that. Yeah.
I think it would go a long way if they just removed a bunch of the bronzes from the mode. Like, I don't think Necker has any business even being in the mode. Smear and Infantryman, like all this stuff. Why is it even in the game? No one's ever going to pick them. It just makes your picks work.
It's just diluting the pool, right? I completely
Exactly.
agree with you.
Like, your bronze picks seem easy. There's usually only 1 bronze playable in your pool.
Yeah,
That's
I would agree.
true,
If you
yeah.
want to keep it, if you don't want to change anything, like if you just want to keep it the way it is, there's no reason for. I agree. Yeah.
And we've seen precedents for games doing this in the past before. Hearthstone, for different reasons, it was more top level balancing that they removed certain cards from draft. But I completely agree that this is a very reasonable direction they might go. What I'm curious, trynet, did Yu-Gi-Oh ever have a limited mode at all? I know you said you're not a limited player. Yu-Gi-Oh is one of the few card games I haven't touched. Curious if that even exists.
Yeah, they released 3 sets called Battle Packs. They were never widely played except in the top cut of YCS events. So like, the
so
very
just new game.
Yeah, you made top 8, all of a sudden top 16, you're playing draft.
Really?
So this made some players that were consistently topping very good at closing events out because they just knew how to draft.
Sure, they were just better than the other players. It was effectively a different game at that point.
Exactly.
I don't know if you guys have ever played Battletoads before, but after level 3 of that insanely difficult game, they make you play fucking Asteroid, and it's nonsense, and they suck at Asteroid. Just venting a little there.
Draft is so wild in Yu-Gi-Oh because it's such a synergy-based game. Like it's so crazy.
Cube's a fun format, but like actual drafting is kind of rough.
Yeah, I'd imagine it's like not great.
It's kind of the same with Gwent, right? I mean, that's why you see so many dead cards like Candy.
I mean,
Yeah, like
Cheer
that's why I say
Nova.
like the closest analog to Gwent is Yu-Gi-Oh's Go format. The games are intrinsically very similar. They both are like they're based on the tempo system of 1 play a turn. They don't have an outside resource system aside from that tempo.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that in Hearthstone and in Magic and in Eternal, the sets that those games release are explicitly designed to foster a draft
Correct.
format. And whereas in Gwent, we're kind of trying to shoehorn draft onto an existing set. So there's not, like, it's going to either be playing nonsense or just bad constructed. Like, in Magic, the draft archetypes are kind of similar, but notably different from the constructed archetypes in the same colors. So you are having a distinct experience from constructed. That's not really a thing in Gwent because it's all the same cards. Like, there's not cards that are explicitly for limited. There kind of are, but they're really. But there's not cards like explicitly for limited that you would only play in limited that like make the gameplay different. So that's one of the core problems I think that it has. It's just going to be hard for it to offer a different gameplay experience when it's all the same card.
Yeah, there's no mana curve.
Yeah.
Really quick, trynet, before we get to the viewer question, since you mentioned it. How do you feel about the whole competitive Gwent scene? Well, I guess we'll limit it to like what CDPR is trying to do with their tournaments. I mean, how do you feel about Pro Ladder? How do you feel about that?
I don't like the way Pro Ladder's set up. It's just a huge grind for... It's just a huge... Like, if you're not making top 8, it's not even worth it. Going for top 200 to play in the tournament at 3 a.m. is really bad for NA players.
It's really bad for NA players.
Like, I just feel like I'm going to be so tired even if I qualify for the top 200 slot that I don't even want to play in the event. Because it's such a long event, too.
I think the Pro Ladder has potential, but right now, I completely agree with you, because being number 9 and being number 200 is like, what, a couple of percentage points off being the same thing? And being number 9 and being 1,000, it's like, there's just no difference. They need to do more with it. We've suggested like March Madness type of deals, top 64 players, get into the sweet monthly tournament, just more ways to make the Pro Ladder engaging to more people. Other than the top 8.
There should like be every weekend there should be like some PTQ-esque event on.
I agree. That'd be great. Some kind of in-game tournament client in general. I think that's very important for the group.
Yeah, I've been advocating that forever.
I think it's also the hardest to do, but there would be no improvement they could make to Gwent that would make me happier than an in-game tournament client.
Hearthstone's getting it now. You got to beat Hearthstone. They're doing it next batch.
Are you talking about the Tavern Brawl thing?
No, the Hearthstone is putting in-game tournaments in the game. Like they're gonna have leagues, like Magic Online, all their major tournaments.
Billions of dollars in 6 years later, so we might have a little bit to wait.
Yeah,
I don't even see what you need the Pro Ladder for. Like, why not just do the ranked ladder? Like, sure, it doesn't encourage multiple factions, but I think there's a lot of skill in being able to identify what the best deck is anyway, and being able to climb the ladder with it.
I would agree with you. I think the Pro Ladder is not serving its intended function.
It's like
it makes you really good at beating bad players.
Yes, that's what it's also like this weird compromise between like it's not conquest but it's not normal ladder either, and it's like this halfway point that doesn't actually matter. So I would prefer that if the system was like there's ladder and like you get some number of crown points for doing well in that, whatever, but then there's also every weekend tournaments where you actually do conquest and you can qualify through two bigger events through those and like have tournaments accentuate the normal ladder instead of Pro Ladder being this like weird hybrid of both not really doing anything.
Exactly, it's not really either. You get no value out of half-assing it, basically. And I mean, the one season I really put the medal to the whatever I did, I tried at Pro Ladder, right? So I had like 980 something games logged, and I finished like top 30-ish or whatever. The top 8 players had like 15 to 1800 games grinded, and I was like, okay, so if I'm ever going to do this, I need to not stream, and I need to have an insanely almost double the amount of hours committed just to even make a real run at this. And then you could end up at 9th, and it's super frustrating that there's not anything else going on with it right now, and it disincentivizes so many players. Like, what it's used for a lot right now is players who want to protect their ranking, so they'll go in and play fucking Shoot Canby, because why not in Pro Ladder? Like, that's what goes on there.
Well,
it's a game mode where you need to have like an 80% win rate to be on top. It's ridiculous. That should never be a thing.
It's crazy.
I think it's really a good idea in theory, right? The way they do it, where you have these peaks, it's counting your peaks, so you don't have to worry about grinding or staying up till midnight the day before the reset to make sure you're on top. I think it's good that they make you play lots of factions because that's what you're doing in tournament. I just think like it needs a little extra work to get there. Like, first of all, it needs matchmaking like desperately. That's why you see these people with 80% win rates, right? Because it's like you guys saying, you're just trying to get a streak into worst players and just win. Like, there's no one on ladder in a correct system should be going like 23-0, like you see with like Adskov doing last day of the ladder. And another thing too is it needs to be more open. Like, you're taking the top 8 players in a pro
You-
ladder
you-
season among hundreds of thousands. Like, you just disincentivize people from playing. Like, the first season, it was really competitive because people were like, this is awesome, we want to get into it, we want to compete. And, like, since they only take the top 8 people, like, very slowly, the people that are kind of on the edge, they don't want to play anymore, so it becomes glorified casual. And you can see it in the rankings, too. Like, the rankings are slowly stagnating, like, throughout the season. The people on the top are still the same, but, like, 150, like, position 150 or something from season 1 to 2 to 3 is just slowly declining in MMR. Because the good players that would inhabit that, there's no reason to play, and they just fall off. And I think that's kind of the beauty of an open event like Wild Hunt, is we get these guys who you don't see on the pro ladder. Like, Trynet is an awesome player, right? He had really good strategies, but in the kind of pro ladder open system we have, you just wouldn't see a guy like him, you know, whether he doesn't have time to play or he doesn't think it's worth it, whatever the thing is.
Because 8 people is just not enough for these large money tournaments. It's just not. It's not a sustainable model in any sort of long term. You need to give more players an opportunity to show how good they are and consistently win at the highest levels. And you're limiting this group of players to people that 100% aren't streaming and people that are going to jam 17 or 1800 games a month and ride the factions. Yes, it introduces another skill set of what's going to be the most played deck this week, so I should be grinding my Northern Realms games right at the beginning because I think this is best now. Yes, there is a skill there, but is that really the type of skill we want to test? It's just, you need to have more players involved in this. I think that there's a very large reason why a lot of the other very successful TCGs and CCGs, however you want to classify Gwent, have their highest level tournaments with a significant amount more players. I just don't think this is long-term sustainable in the current way it's going.
I don't think that it's a problem like the opens and challengers are limited to 10 people, but I do think the qualification process needs to be more open. Like, you just think of the qualification process like the Swiss rounds of a tournament, and the actual open takes place at a live event is the top 8.
Yeah, that's how I think they should think about it. But right now, it's just like that they only there's just like there's very like there's not a big path. There's not really a path to get into like challenge or whatever. Whereas like if I wanted to like grind the Magic Pro Tour, I could just start going to PTQs and like start making some forward progress on like getting to the Pro Tour. When like for what do I do for Gwent? Like I try to spike top 8. Like
the fact that it's so much easier to qualify for the Pro Tour than it is to qualify for an Open. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's not even close. Not even close. Like multiple like it's 7-8 times harder. Like something crazy like that.
Probably even harder than that.
Yeah,
it's
certainly way more hours.
Yes.
It's not even that these guys getting to the Open are like bad players or not great. Like they're obviously really good players.
They are insanely good players.
Yeah.
Don't take anything away from them. They know what the hell they're doing.
It's just like you have maybe say like 100 good players and then you lock like 80 of them from being able to compete because you know they don't have enough time or the system isn't set up where they can compete in it or whatever. So it's like you know there are a lot of people out there that are good and they want to compete, right? We saw a huge showing at the Wild Hunt and people wanting to go and be a part of the system, but they're kind of like blocked out for the way the ladder's set up. And I think it would be good if we could just like let these people in and you know let people experience competitive Gwent, because it really is awesome and it's like the best way to play Gwent. And it's just for a lot of people it's just not feasible for them, and it's kind of sad.
Yeah, you just need to give a reason for like the bottom 95% of the community to be invested. Your competitive community can't thrive off of the top 5% of people or less than that in this case.
Not even that, it's like 0.001%.
Yeah, dude, I think 5% would be great, actually.
Yeah, point,
like, it is 0.0005% of players. Like, it's...
Whatever, like...
5% would be a great number to shoot for.
Yeah.
Whatever, like, 50 divided by 200,000 is, that's your percentage.
Yeah. It's hard to replicate in, like, the digital space, but the reason Magic has such a big, thriving pro scene is because the people who are like aren't going to be pros and don't even have aspirations are still incentivized to participate in the system because like GPs are events, like opens are events, like there's these things that like people can go to and experience what pro players experience even if they're not going to like do that professionally. There's no like you can't play Conquest right now. If you want to play Conquest on what you can't do that. Like you have to like go to some third-party tournament that happens like once every 2 months or whatever and like go through this weird process of like going through this interact with people you've never met. Like
add people on your friends list.
Yeah, it's like this really weird, alienating, convoluted process. Like, they should just be able to experience what like pros experience. They should be able to like play the game they see when they tune into Challenger from like never experienced Web before. that should be an accessible thing for them, and there's just like no way to do that right.
So in the interest of time, I think we'll move on to viewer questions. So guys, throw your questions in the chat for trynet, for one of the hosts, if you guys want to have that answered. Real quick before we head into that, we got a big host. I did not see who it was from, but thank you very much for that. All you guys joining in. We do this podcast every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern, competitive Gwent podcast. But on to the questions. We have one question here from Watchflake who says, prior to the tournament, this is for trynet, by the way. Prior to the tournament, how connected to the Gwent community were you? Did you know streaming community had a favorite personality? And how did it change when you met everyone at the Wild Hunt?
Just real quick, it was apparently Super JJ that gave that host, so thank you very much, Super JJ. I appreciate it.
Thank you, JJ.
I occasionally watch Swim, Pumpkin, Joe. Like, occasionally, not a lot. I wouldn't say I was particularly talking to anybody. I pretty much lone wolfed the event as much as... Yeah, I didn't actually talk with anybody, because none of my Yu-Gi-Oh! Friends are playing the game yet. None of the Magic friends are playing yet. Yeah, it was just ladder and theory. Preparation.
Cool. Yeah, that's hard to do. Like, I know how important, like, a team is for, like...
It really is tough. That makes it even more impressive of an accomplishment.
Doing it the Shaw McLaren way.
Have your Yu-Gi-Oh! Friends been interested in Gwent now that you've won? Has it kind of piqued their interest?
Yeah, I have a couple friends that are interested in checking it out. We'll see if anything amounts to it.
Cool.
Go be a good ambassador, man. We need it.
So Svets Nazi says, for Trynet, what was your favorite part of the Wild Hunt, and why was it awkwardly diving into an Uber XL with me, Nissa Fish Martius, and St. Kiwi?
No, the whole event was a blast. I can't really single out anything.
Oh, that was good. We're all waiting outside trying to go back to Gwent Match and trying to figure out who's going to jam themselves on a what car.
Okay, funny off topic, but it was after the event. It must have been like 1 a.m. and we're driving back to the Gwent mansion, and parking is like a nightmare. But it was me and like 4 other guys, like Swim, Lock-In, Lurks in the car, and we find a spot where we just can barely fit, but we have to do like a 20-point turn to like parallel park, get in there, and like Pumpkin's outside the car, like, all right, you're good, a little bit more, stop. It was hilarious. If you guys haven't seen Flake's Secret of Gwent Mansion stream, go check that out, because it was
a lot of fun to do.
A lot of funny stuff. But Paradoxic asks, what I've always been curious about is that the issues that persist in the game, i.e. like coin flip Hoog, why can't you ban a faction deck like you can in tournaments, and that would change the meta? So that's a good question. What do we think about that in something like Pro Ladder?
In Ladder, that would like be weird to like blacklist a faction that you don't want to play against, because you could just play some deck with one bad matchup and ban your bad matchup and crush. That seems weird.
If they're able to identify that, more power to you, right?
Yeah, but it's like I don't think that's like.
Until there's a guide on GwentDB the next day, like ban Axeman and play this deck, like, and then 90% of the population's doing it, and it reduces queue times.
And then you play a slightly worse Axeman deck that doesn't play whatever leader is your leader, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's fair. That's fair.
I think you would have to make the whole queuing more like tournament, because that's fine in tournament bans because you play one deck and then it's gone. You have to win with multiple decks. But for like Pro Ladder right now, if you just implemented bans, then yeah, you could do what you guys said, just grind that out, ban your bad matchup, and crush. If you had some sort of thing where it was like a best of 3 or like a best of 5 where you had to win with multiple decks, that'd probably work okay. But
yeah, I don't like the idea of banning a faction for the ladder, because I think a lot of deck building, which, you know, obviously in a popular online card game, deck building is only really done by a few people. A lot of people are just sort of copy pasting what's going on. But like one of the beauties of deck building is figure out, okay, is this matchup so bad that I should just not tech for it and accept that as like an 80-20, or is it more like a 60-40 and I can add a couple of cards to change how that matchup's going to play out? How should I prepare for every single deck on ladder? You could certainly evaluate it from the other way as well. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of that idea.
I still think it's really silly every time I queue into Neckers and I don't have answers to it.
Yeah, well, isn't that more of a problem with Neckers, though? Like, why does that card exist?
Definitely. Definitely. But I mean, you could say everything's a problem with CDPR design, but they're not going to fix it anytime soon.
You and Truedawn are going to get along great, dude.
There's an interesting question. Don't know if any of you have played Dota, but if you do, what would you think of a battle cup like game mode being implemented? I just looked up what this is, and it's actually kind of exactly what I wanted, where it is a like tournament that if, like, say you are Grandmaster in Ladder, you then now have access to entering a like certain kind of tournament that you could like pay an entry fee for and like get money for that. Like there's some cross-continental stuff that's a problem with that, but whatever. Even without the entry fee, like a tournament that you have to do well and then you qualify for, and then that tournament is then the thing that is used for the qualification to like whatever major event.
So like Pro Ladder done correctly.
Yeah, like, I think that's what it should be. Like if you get to Grandmaster, once you're a Grandmaster, you unlock the ability to enter these tournaments or whatever, and then that's how you queue to things. I think that would be.
I think you'd have to go back to 2-month seasons though, because it does take a long time to get to Grandmaster.
Correct. Yeah, I think that's definitely debatable. 1 month has seemed too short, especially if once you hit Grandmaster, there's like another level. So yeah, I would agree. You probably make it 2 months.
I mean, to play devil's advocate too, that like, if you have those dedicated tournaments, it does make it hard for certain people where like they work at a certain time, or they can't dedicate a huge amount of time to sit down and play these, because they would be big tournaments, right? For sure. Whereas, Pro Ladder, it's kind of nice where you can play when you have time and you build up towards, a ranking at the end of the season. So
there's a couple ways you can do it, though. Like, you can have it so it's the scheduled big event on the weekend, or you can have it like leagues on Matchline where you just enter this pool of players, play 5 games, and if you go 5-0, you, like, won your tournament, but it's asynchronous, so you don't need, like, it's schedule as agnostic. If you have a weird schedule, it doesn't matter. And if you 5-0 enough times, like if you 5-0, you get a crown point, or stuff like that. So
that's a good way to do it.
Yeah.
Or maybe make it along with Pro Ladder so that there are alternate ways to gain crown points.
Yeah, I think that there's like a complementary system. I like normal ladder being used as okay, you have reached Grandmaster, you've proven you are good enough to commit to this competitive thing. Here, do this stuff. Like that seems like
That's interesting too, because we have this whole crown point system, but it just completely ends up not mattering, right? Because the people with the most crown points are always...
That is one of the biggest failings of the, in my opinion.
It's very rarely mattered. It only mattered with
I have no idea how many
Babes.
crown points I have, and I'm just not curious because I don't have nearly enough for it.
Yeah.
It's going to matter more the more crown points are given out, though, right?
But I think they reset, or they only count for certain events depending on when you get the crown points. Like, I don't even understand completely how it works. The only time I know it mattered is when Freddie Babe made Challenger, because he had crown points from winning a Gwent Slam or something like that.
Yeah, it could use work, but crown points is like you could fix that and use those as like as long as the problem with them right now is like they're like access locked. Like the best way to get crown points is like the events, and you can only qualify for those by like it creates this like positive feedback loop where only the people who qualify for tournaments are able to get enough crown points to qualify for tournaments. And that's why we only ever see the same people at tournaments. So if you fix that part of the problem, then we should be okay.
Yeah.
So G Sutters asks, do you think they should adjust the regular ladder MMR to favor higher win rates over the most played games? I think the system is actually in an okay shape as it is. You want to incentivize people that are never going to hit Grandmaster, that are never going to hit these higher tiers, to play and get their rewards and feel like they're, having a sense of progression. While after you hit Grandmaster, if you're going for that top 100 or something, your win rate actually really does matter. And I like the fact that your win rate matters at the top while not being the prime tool to climb when you're in the low, middle, and even some of the higher end ranks, depending on your perspective. What do you guys think about it? I'm actually okay with the way it is.
I think the climb up to 4K is a little slow. Like, it just feels like my first 100 games in the season just don't matter. I just, like, blitz through with an 80% win rate. Yeah, I'd rather get to 4K faster so my games start mattering. But after that, it doesn't matter.
The ladder system is really weird because you have this thing where, like, up to 4K, like he was saying, it's, who can just play the most games. It's about getting those games in. Your win rate is really kind of irrelevant. Then you hit, like, 4K and your win rate starts to matter. And then you hit, like, 4250, and it's, like, completely in the other way where it's, like, your win rate matters, but almost to an extreme where it's, like, very small sample size of super high win rate. Yeah, it's like super small sample size of super high win rate is how you climb up. I'd like to see it more of a system where win rate matters more, but over the entire season. So there was kind of a period when they were experimenting with the ranked system, like back, they changed it from being very easy to rank up and it was super inflationary to they slowed it down a lot. But if you had a good win rate, you could climb pretty consistently. I think that was back the patch after open beta when Skellige was really good. But I personally would like to see them go back to that, because it's kind of like you find your true, where you belong very quickly. Where like Trynet said, it's like in the system we have now, it's like the first 50, 100 games this season, they don't really matter. You're not really matched up against people at your true skill, and then as you get to the top, you kind of like hit a brick wall very quick, and it becomes kind of a more swingy system. So even in that, you're not finding your true, MMR skill level games that well, I'd say.
You actually just saw Hearthstone fix that problem by they just kind of segmented their ladder, where if you're end in Legend, you only drop to 5.
Rank 4 or something.
Yeah,
I think it's 4 ranks.
So
back or
wherever you
go.
are, you're you don't have to do that weird thing at the beginning of every season where you just grind through
Just
plebs
romp,
for a week
stomp
or whatever,
dudes.
and it's just really tedious and annoying, and you don't have interesting games for a while. So you can do that by just making it so the drop off is not as big. If you're a Grandmaster, you drop to 18 or whatever.
All right. Well, in the interest of time, I think that will do it for all the questions. I think we should go through and do some shout-outs now. We'll start with our esteemed champion, Mr. Trynet. Where can people find you? What have you been doing lately?
I've been trying to stream on Twitch TV, so you can find me at twitch.tv/trynet123. I post links in chat, but I don't actually have a chat open.
I gotcha.
We
Okay,
get one
cool.
else on there.
And then on YouTube, you can find me at trynet123. Same. You can also find that link in my Twitch description.
There you go. Awesome. Check him out. He's really smart, really thinks about the game in an interesting way, and you guys will all like it. How about you guys? Truedawn, Joe Snow, go ahead. Plug yourself.
I've got a few, actually. I've got shout-outs and new things to say. So you can always find me at my stream, twitch.tv/Joe Snow. Find me there. That's where I always am. I'll be easy. I always answer questions. We'll try my best to get to everything in the chat, help you guys out. So normally it's just that in my YouTube, but we had a new advancement this week, boys. Joe Snow got himself a Twitter. So you can now find me at Twitter, Joe Snow at Twitter, however you do your little tweets and your hat things. I am now there. I am there, boys. It's a fact. I also wanted to shout out Coleman for joining Topdeck Gaming. One of my favorite players to watch, particularly at the last Open. I thought he brought an amazing lineup that I would have absolutely done the same thing. He got crushed by JJ, and I would have as well. But I do really like his gameplay style. He's crushing Pro Ladder this season, and I just want to officially welcome Coleman to the Topdeck family.
Is it Coleman or Colmoen?
I don't know. I'm terrible at pronouncing things.
I think it's Colmoen, but everyone pronounced it the way you pronounced it, and no one ever corrected anyone.
Fair.
Joe, man, are you going to be casting in the future? I've seen a lot of people were impressed with you.
Yes, I'm going to be working my ass off to get as many more casting appearances as possible. I have been asked by Swim to become one of the regulars for the Topdeck casting, so I'm certainly going to be working with them, and you're going to see me doing a lot more casting there. Thank everyone for the gracious amount of super positive feedback, and looking to expand it into other areas as well. So that is the current plan.
Yeah, you killed it, man. Your energy was whew, the whole time.
Thank you very much. I definitely died during the finals, but
We all did.
We all did, yeah.
It was such a long day.
Yeah, definitely.
How about you, Truedawn? What do you got cooking?
I am Frank Moon, go by Truedawn. You can catch me at Twitch TV/TruedawnFM and on Twitter at TruedawnFM. Just been streaming card games recently. We're actually been streaming Gwent a decent amount recently.
Who would have thought?
I've been getting through it. I've been drudging through. I've actually been enjoying Duel Links. I might stream Duel Links a bit more. It's actually hilarious. It's so great. I love all the emotes. But yeah, if you're interested in any card games, we're going to be just streaming those whenever MTGA's NDA goes off. We're going to be streaming that. So if you want to come watch card games and me get salty at suboptimal game design, head over to my Twitch channel.
And you've been doing some good videos too on the Topdeck YouTube. I've checked a few of those out. Those are pretty awesome too.
I think the word is controversial.
Doesn't Trynet have a YouTube as well?
Yeah.
Yeah,
in
you
my
did
Twitch
mention
description.
it,
I
yeah.
tried to plug it.
Okay, in the description. Gotcha. Just want to make sure we got that out there.
Yep.
Yeah,
If
what
about
wanna
you,
watch
Big
videos, check out the Topdeck YouTube channel.
Awesome, yeah. Well, I just wanted to shout out the whole Wild Hunt crew, No Control especially, for putting that whole thing together. It was an amazing event, and he killed it on the production, the matches, everything was just awesome. Want to shout out the Thursday talk show, the Topdeck talk show with Swim and Jaggerist. That is still going strong. Check that out Thursday, 4 p.m. Eastern. And yeah, check us out every Sunday. We go live at 4 p.m. And if you miss a little bit, our show will be up on YouTube in the following 2 days. But yeah, besides that, catch me, twitch.tv/ShoePlays, Twitter @ShoePlays. And it was a great show. And we hope to see all you guys next week. And thanks again, JJ, for the big host. We love you, man. Looking forward to you in the next Challenger.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, have a great day, guys, and we'll see you next week.
Later, everybody.